Hello, everyone. I would like to just go over the domain and range for these two functions. And these are two functions that we have done the graphing. We plotted the points. And, so in this clip, it's going to be short. I don't want to make it long. So for plotting points and graph the function and making the tables, and I will send you guys to watch the recorded lecture. And of course, if you have lecture notes from my in-person class, and feel free to review that. Now, I just want to give you some visual guidance as how to identify the domain and range. If you have done the picture, you need to understand that domain is a horizontal span. Horizontal span, how far the picture goes horizontally. Okay, so let me just draw a better picture here. It's a horizontal span. How wide the picture span? How wide the picture span? Okay. So domain is about how wide the span is of the graph horizontally. So if you look at these two pictures, and on the left-hand side, which is e to the power x, and you know that it's going to go in the other direction, the negative infinity indefinitively. And in the other direction, it's going to go on and on to the positive directions indefinitively. Most people get the domain for e to the power x. That's not a problem. So here, I'm going to just write it down. So that's domain for e to the power x. That's easy, right? Most of you get it. Most of you get it. Now, let's look at the domain for ln x. If you look at the domain for ln x, then you know this curve that will never touch y-axis. So the domain as a horizontal span, this tells you the domain is what? The domain is the input, x, because you tell the reader that's the input, okay? Must be positive. And so your function, in your function, you tell the reader that's the input. And this input is from negative infinity to positive infinity, which indicate the horizontal span. And the other one, the input is x, but x is also indicating because it's in the position of input. So it's from larger than 0 to positive infinity. The curve will never touch y-axis. That means x will never be 0. X must be always positive for ln x. Now, let's look at a vertical span. Vertical span is about range. Okay, so I'm going to use a different color. Vertical span is about range. How high it goes, how low it goes. And if you look, and it's the same for both. It's the same for both. Okay, it's the same for both. So if you look at the vertical span, right? E to the power x, we know the curve will never touch x-axis. So the vertical span will get infinitely close to 0, but will never touch it. Therefore, the range for e to the power x is the range. Okay, how do we express range? Well, this is the range. This is the output when input is given. So the output is always positive. Always positive. Okay, so that's how you express domain and range. And I will talk about other options that you guys have shown me on the quiz. And the range for ln x here, if you look at the curve, vertically, it could go as low as possible to negative infinity in this direction, right? In the vertical direction, it could go as low as possible So that means range will be from -infinity to as high as possible. Look at that, as high as possible. It goes as high as possible. It goes as high as possible slowly. So vertical span, the range for ln x is, the range for ln x is from -infinity to +infinity. Okay, which is the same as the domain of e to the power x, because these two functions are inverse functions to each other. Okay, and some people express domain for ln x in the following way. So I'm gonna show you some mistakes I saw. Okay, some mistake I saw on the paper, on the quiz you turn in. Okay, range of ln x. When you write it down this way, it means the input is x. Okay, and the function is, rule of the function is ln x. Okay, so your output is ln x. So when you express your range, you can just do from -infinity to +infinity. Okay, you can also say, or you can also say ln x is in that range. You can express it that way. So the reader will know this is the output, not the input. But I saw mistakes, people like express a domain for ln x this way. That is a mistake. Some people express domain this way. They say the domain is ln x larger than 0. This is a terrible mistake because you're telling the reader not about x. You're telling the reader that this is the output. Okay, so it's a messed up. So don't use this. I saw multiple mistakes on the quiz about expressing the domain for ln x. So when you express domain for ln x, you're talking about what x can be. So the x must be positive. So that's the correct, okay? So this is a mistake. Okay, so we clarify, mistake. And that other one is the correction. Watch the correction. The correction, sorry. The correction is we need to remove ln. Because if you have ln attached to, that will become the output. Okay, so domain is about input. Okay, its domain is about input. This notation tells the reader the input is x, the output is ln x. Got it? Okay, I hope that helps. And I think I would like you guys to continue to study, to review about logarithm and exponential functions. And we still have quite a bit of concerns. Okay, some of you made some progress. I mean, some of you actually made some mistakes that was unexpected. But anyway, until next time, thank you for watching.